Welcome to a whole load of property, business, and mindset, a podcast bringing together like-minded people who have an interest in all things business, property investing, and personal development.
Hi, Jamie. Thanks for coming on the podcast. It's like I say on the first, it's been a long time coming, a few months. But yeah, great to have you on and look forward to this episode.
Me too, mate. Exciting times. Let's do this.
Yeah, definitely. So a lot of people, you've got various followers across all your platforms. A lot of people know your story, but without going into too much detail, where are you from? Who are you? What do you do?
Got ya. Okay, so originally I'm from Southeast, in Dartford, Kent. And the kind of story is getting into property, but that many people do, watching too many episodes of Homes Under the Hammer, looking at everyone that ignored Martin and Lucy at the time, their advice, and still made money. And then I was the sort of person who was like, well, if these people are doing it, ignoring all the advice, then why can't I? I knew absolutely nothing, obviously. But it was like, so at uni, started making a bit of money as trading, working, every job that I could to get money, until ended up sort of spending loads of it, losing loads of it, until finally a lecturer just said, look, you need to sort your life out, long and short of it. And he happened to own property up in Burnley in the Northwest. So I was like, yeah, okay, massively inspired by this guy. I had about 20 grand left over of the money that I'd been trading with and all of that. And I found a house up there for £21,800, which is probably still worth £21,800, so not that impressive. But and basically I screwed it all up, if I'm honest. So you would have heard this line, by the worst house in the best street in the best area, right? But this was like the worst house in the worst street in the worst area, and it was 200 miles away. So each week, and this was in my final year of uni, and I'd go Monday to Friday at uni, do some cash in hand jobs, drive up in the van, work there in the weekend, sleep in the back of the van, that sort of thing. And about 9 months later, I was nearly done, and then somebody broke in and just ripped everything out. So they nicked my tools. Heartbreak, mate, it was. And they pulled the wires out of the wall from the rewire that I'd done. They'd even dug up the kitchen floor, which was really weird. But it turns out there's lead in the floor there, so it's worth a bit of money. Yeah, that's it. So they nicked it all, and I was like, you know what, maybe property is not for me. Maybe it's a lot harder than I thought, and then packed it all in. And then, I moved over. I was in Leeds at the time, still am now. And, just did odd jobs like recruitment, bit of headhunting, stuff like that, until sort of decided, you know what, I really do want to do property. I really want to give it a go. Maybe this time I'll go get educated and stop being cocky, right? And so I did end up going, paid a load out for education, a lot of the investment in mindset as well. Because I'm a big believer in that whole Dr. D Martini line, skill set without the mindset will leave you upset. And so, got my head straight, got educated, and then sort of kicked off. And then, that was maybe 8 years ago, let's say 8.5 years ago, maybe. And then, fast forward to today, obviously got the business, Aspire Property Group, got the education business, and we're doing probably about 5.5 million a year now. In turnover, and it's going well. Got a sizable portfolio, and then try to sort of give back now and contribute, and with the YouTube channel and stuff like that. So that's a very sort of condensed 8.5 years version there.
Yeah, I mean, we could probably spend a full hour just doing the history and the journey to where you are now. But you said you're from Dartford. Turns out we went to the same school, and I attribute going to that school to like wanting to achieve more. So I don't know if I think you've touched on it on some podcast, but I remember being in school, and I went from a wealthy background, still aren't, and seeing kids in school. I remember someone 17th birthday had an X5, brand new X5 on their 17th birthday. I'm thinking, fucking hell, like, is that possible? Like, where's all this come from? Where's this money type thing? And then my mum and dad had a bit of a banger. I used to say, yeah, park around the corner, I'll meet you around there. Didn't want to get in the car in front of people, but I never grew up around like wealth until I sort of saw it at that school, and I was like, there's got to be more. Like, how do you get hold of this? And what was your driving factor? What do you attribute to you, wanting to be successful and, like you say, you got £5.5 million in revenue, a sizable portfolio. What was your sort of contributing factor to trying to achieve that?
Yeah, like I think it's really important for people to understand there's no like one thing. It's usually a series of events. So, there's that whole nature versus nurture argument, like nature being who you are innately. So I was always a bit of a hustler. I always loved chatting with people, which can be looked at as sales, right? Always liked having a laugh and not afraid of hard work. Even from a young age, I'd be paper round before anyone else, like begging for the paper round. They were like, "You're not old enough. You're not old enough." And I'd be like, "I'll do it for free then." And then I'll prove myself, and then you can pay me if you think I'm good enough. All of that sort of thing. And that's just the nature of who you are. And some people just aren't like that. You know what? Like, especially in the UK now, like the opportunities are as equal as you can possibly get. Like, what I mean by that is poor here in the UK is not poor. And I don't get me wrong, I know there's some people going through some real hard stuff, but I doubt many people that are struggling that much are listening to this podcast, if I'm completely honest. Poor here is I'm struggling to pay my gas and electric bill. That's not poor, right? Poor in Africa, poor in Eastern Europe, all of that stuff. That's poor. That's a different level. And so it's really about marrying that up and sort of understanding the opportunity. So then you've got the nurture, the situations that happen in life. And for me, it was probably two things. So number one was my dad dying. And that was when I was 13. So that would have been year 8.
7 or 8. Yeah, year 8, I think.
Yeah, year 8. So yeah, he died in year 8. And that obviously horrible. And I remember I was seeing a therapist at the time, try and cope with it all and all of that. Yeah. And one of the things she got me doing, which I hated her for at the time, was to write down 100 positive things that will come or have come from my dad dying. And I remember like, what the fuck is wrong with you?
At the time, can't think of one. Like, what's positive?
Well, like it took me probably about 6 weeks to actually put pen to paper. But once I did, I never got to 100, but it was maybe like 50 or something like that. And was realizing that actually life doesn't happen to you, it happens for you. Now, don't get me wrong, if I could give up everything that I've got now for one day with my dad, of course I'd do it, right? But that's not going to happen. So it's understanding, okay, what does it bring me? And one of the core things it gave me is a true appreciation of life. Like we're all going to die, like guaranteed. It's just a matter of when, right? It could be right after this podcast, something happens, right? You just don't know. So my dad was 38 when he died. And so I was thinking like, that's young. That's young by anyone's standards. And now I'm 31. I still think of it every year. I turn 31 on the 7th of November. And I was just sort of like, okay, if I had 7 years left, which is what my dad got, if I had 7 years left, how would I live it? And so that's one key thing for me, is an appreciation for living. And, I'm really not afraid of dying. I really am not afraid of dying. Don't get me wrong, I don't want to. Yeah. But if I know this is my last year, okay, that would be shit. But I would 100% live. And that's more than most people would say. And then on the other side, it is that school as well. So, we were so lucky to go there because my background is very similar to yours. Half my family are on the dole, and half my family is sort of, working with their hands, and that's most of the family. And which is great, nothing wrong with that. But it's then going to a school where I remember in my year as a kid called Levan, and lovely bloke. And on his 17th, when he was learning, his dad got him a Jag. And I was like, what is this? And there were kids doing like their private pilot license. Yeah, not because they want to be pilots, just because I can. And I remember like, geez, man, like my mum bought my first driving lesson for my birthday. Yeah. And that was it. The rest I had to earn them myself. And so being around that, having an appreciation for life, being around people where it's like, I'm sure you remember the kids getting dropped off at school in their dad's Bentley and stuff like that. Nuts. And it'd be like, do you know what? There's a life there. I know life is short. I appreciate life and I work hard. Like, I will work harder than, and that was it. I was like, you guys might have money. I never said this to anyone. I was like, you might have money, you know, you might have this, but none of you are going to work harder than me. And that's where sort of the real catalyst for me has come from. And the same is true today. Every time I get to the top of my circle, it's not like I disregard people, but I really do recalibrate. I really look at the people around me and go, who do I want as part of the next stage of my journey? And half of them, like, you outgrow people. You know, if you're friends with, you know, at school, if I'd be having a bit of a smoke and drinking like all the time, and that's still all they do, why would I still be friends? Like, that's not the person I want to surround myself with now. So then I sort of upgrade the circle and get inspired. And you should continuously look to upgrade and shrink that circle as you develop.
Yeah, I can't remember who said it, but they say you're the average of the 5 people you spend most time with, don't you? And you know, I think I probably had my bit of a, not epiphany, but my motivation come later in life. And I remember it was 2018, I think. Yeah, it was 2018 to 2019 Christmas, and that was when I was looking at, you know, how do I get into property? I always wanted to do it. I moved up to Hull in 2017. Property prices a lot more affordable. You know, I just thought, so how do I do it? And I remember sitting down with my mate, because he had a couple of buy-to-lets, works offshore, so he had, you know, he had money but not a lot of time. He said, why don't you get into property sourcing? I was thinking, what the hell's that? You know, and he said, well, you just find people properties and they pay you money for it, you know, as that's like layman's terms.
Yeah,
And then I went researching and I watched the video, and it was when you and Dan come on the screen. I think there was a property sourcing like gurus thing. There's about 5 others like being interviewed, and then you and Dan as well. I thought, fucking hell, they went to school, you know. And then I looked into property sourcing and reached out, and that was it. And once you start immersing yourself with people in that industry, you understand that things can be achievable. And you know, I remember going to some sort of networking meetings, and people were like, oh yeah, you know, someone offered me 80 grand like for a joint venture, and you think, well, does that happen? But then obviously, as you sort of go through life and you sort of start proving yourself, then there's cash in abundance, isn't there? And it's crazy how much money is out there. And unless you change your mindset and put yourself into them situations and surround yourself with people doing it, you're never going to believe it's possible.
Oh yeah, mate. There's it's 100% right, and it's different worlds. It's different worlds, you know. Like, I started talking to I don't know what to call him. Not a friend, not a mentor, but somebody I look up to. Is got a net worth of over $1 billion. And I remember saying to him about raising finance for projects. So one of my key goals now, financial goals, is to get £100 million portfolio by the time I'm 30.
Yeah.
So, you know, got 4 years. And he went, well, £100 million portfolio. He went, yeah, cool. So go buy blocks or condominiums or whatever. American guy.
Yeah. And is he from the other side?
Yeah, he's from the other side of the pool. And he goes, yeah, just get somebody to give you 100 million. And I was like, get somebody to give me 100 million? Who the fuck do you think I am? He went, mate, just make a couple of calls. What are you on about? And I was like, 100 million pounds. He went, yeah, couple of phone calls. Like, what's the issue? And it's because the world that we operate in, your rules are based around the world that you choose to be in, you know. And it's like, but actually, as soon as you say, actually, I don't want to be a part of this world anymore, this is the world. And then when you're a part of that world, you go, do you know what? There's a world above that, and there's always a new world. You know, like think about the guys playing at hundreds of millions, the Elon Musks of the world. So, do you think they're playing the same game as us? No, it's a completely different game. It's like when you're on benefits and you're seeing people that are able to go out for meals multiple times a week. It's like they're playing a different game. And the people doing that are then able to play, I don't know, stay at the Savoy or whatever, it's playing a different game. And so it is the average of the 5 people that you surround yourself with. And the more and more you upgrade yourself, the more you're outside of your comfort zone, the more you're going to feel fear. But the more you're going to feel fear, you'll develop a lot faster. And you'll just be able to cope with completely different levels of things that you ever thought were possible. I mean, you talk about that 80 grand, and it's like, I genuinely would argue raising 50 grand is a lot harder than getting $1 million. It really is. And the people that I know, they're like, oh man, getting $1 million is just difficult. Offer people, why, like, go for 10 million. And by the sounds of it, the people that are above that getting 10 million, you're dealing with people you don't want to bother dealing with, get 100 million. And I imagine it just gets easier and easier because it's people with different risks. Raising 50 grand. Who's investing 50 grand? It's your mum, your dad, somebody that's done really well for himself. But somebody that's investing 50 grand, that's their life savings, more than likely. Somebody investing 1 million, they're a different cat. They're playing a different game, and they're investing and understand risk. They don't want to hear from you. Just give me my money back. That's all I care about.
Yeah, that's it. They just want the numbers on the spreadsheet.
That's pretty much it, mate. It's playing a completely different game.
And you notice that when you're selling property, like sourcing to an individual investor who's probably got 35 to 40K, that they know that they buy that one buy to that on the mortgage, all their costs, they probably have a few grand left over. Trying to, I say persuade or sell that property to an individual investor, as opposed to selling a block of 20 apartments to a real estate fund. The real estate fund will drop, 1.8 mil cash within 3 weeks, as long as it's the spreadsheet numbers show. But then getting that one individual to try and spend 35K of their life savings on one property, knowing that, that's a lot of their gone, it's the same sort of thing. It's about that element of risk for that person, individual or company, organization. I want to touch on, you've used the word game a lot, and I was watching one of your YouTube videos, and you said property is a game of the mind.
Yeah.
So I'm interested to know more on that. Like you say, a game. So, what do you mean by game of the mind? Who you're playing? What are you playing?
So it's all a game. It's all like life is a game. We're so like pathetically small in the grand scheme. What I mean by that is like we're all nobodies, right? And I mean that from a really positive. The Queen, when she was around, nobody. The king now is a nobody. And I don't mean like in relation to each other. I mean in the like how infinitesimally small we are to the universe. Like nobody, like when we die, nothing's remembering us. The greater being, whether it's God you believe in or some scientific thing, it's like you're nothing in the grand scheme of things. So people take themselves so seriously. It's unreal. And it's like, it is a game to be played. Sometimes you're going to win. Sometimes you're going to lose. Think of it as a big game of poker, just a bit more educated gambles. So people, when I say a game of the mind, what I'm talking about is that positive game, first of all, and having a great mindset. How much money you make, it is a complete mindset. If you're a complete beginner right now, say one of you guys listening, you've never done a property deal. What is to stop you getting, I don't know, 6 months of completely immersing yourself? Like, okay, let's make it up. Let's say you went on the dole for 6 months and you spent 6 months volunteering for the biggest, baddest guy out there that's doing like the minimum deal they look at as a £50 million deal. And you spend 6 months with that person learning inside out. And then you went to that person, listen, I'm going to go out and find my own deal. It's going to be £50 million. I will do absolutely everything from what I've learned from you. Would you joint venture with me? And on the first one, I'll take 10% of the profits. You'll probably find somebody that will go, yeah. And it's like, cool. But because of our mindsets, we go, no. I'll get a buy-to-let first. And I'm not saying it's bad, by the way, but then we do another buy-to-let and another buy-to-let. It's like, why? If you bought a block of 5 apartments that's existing, let's say, why not buy a block of 500 apartments? Like, how different is it? In fact, you'll find it so much easier to do because you'll get funding by the big players in there. And in fact, at that level, the big players want a joint venture with you. I'm talking like the banks, the private banks and stuff like that. They'll joint venture with you on it. So it's like, what stops you isn't the availability of education, because that's there. It's not, will somebody invest in you? If you're not an investable person, then that's on you. So really, it's mindset, because the spreadsheet's the exact same. It's just a few more zeros at the end. So that's what I mean by game of the mind. Like when you can manage your emotions, you can manage your mindset, you manage your diary effectively, The only thing stopping you is how many zeros on a spreadsheet that you can stomach at one point, and the risks that you're willing to take on. And I just think, like, in our country, the risk is so small.
Yeah.
Like people don't get it. So we operate under a limited company structure, right? Let's say you don't do anything illegal or overly dodgy in that limited company. You can go bankrupt. You can go into liquidation, and in, is it 6 years and a day or something like that? It never happened. It's gone. It's not on your credit file anymore. And then you can start again. Like, if you fuck up that royally, you can still start again. Like, if you play out, let's say, however many millions I've got, let's say I lose it all, absolutely lose it all. What happens? Let's say I have to go on the dole. I have to claim benefits. I don't want to. But if I had to, the country provides me with a house, and I'll be helped out financially. Like, that's the risk of the downside. And people will not take action on their dreams because they're terrified of that downside. It's like, how different is your life from somebody claiming benefits? Do you know the benefit they've got is time? It's like, but the rest of you that are scared to take action, I'm guessing you live in a house. I'm guessing you want a better house, maybe. I don't know. You probably have a car. And it's like I said, my family have own benefits. One of my family members got 4 kids on benefits, got TV in every room. They've got Sky, got a car. You know, she'll moan every now and then about not being able to afford the petrol. But the life ain't that much different from everyone else. So it's like, if you're going to choose to be average, honestly, just go on benefits. I know that's a really weird thing to say, but if I'm going to choose just to be average, just go on benefits and at least read a book and chill a little bit. And people can say I'm out of touch. Like I said, half my family's on benefits. It's not bad. And it's like, or choose to throw yourself at life, choose to play the game, choose to give it your all, choose to live and hustle, and then see what outcomes you get from it.
No, I totally agree with you. Like you say, the risk, once you strip it back like that, I've never really sat back and looked at it like that. But when you say about people being on benefits, like TV in each room, Sky, like, again, my family are the same. And I see them, I think, how have you got that nice car? You've got TV in every room, 50-inch, you know, Sky in every room. You think, fucking hell, it must cost you a fortune. But they don't pay it, do they? Government pays it.
Well, that's it. Like, ultimately, the taxpayer's paying it. And like, it's, Now don't get me wrong. I'm not making out it's a life of frivolity. They're not going to the nice restaurants and stuff like that. But genuinely, they're eating. They get a takeaway every week. They got Sky in each room, you know. And it's like, if you look at the life that the average person does, it's like, honestly, how much happier would you be if you could just chill, play Xbox or PlayStation all day, read books what you want? It's like,
yeah, but it's having that time, isn't it? And I think there's a trade-off at, you know, especially in the early stages of growing a business, you trade off your time. Although you have your own time, but you're investing all of that into scaling the business, aren't you? So you don't have that time to probably sit down and read all the books you want, or, you know.
It's a really good point. That the thing that I would say to people is, you're always trading the time for something.
Yeah.
But when you do that, you're trading your time for nothing. So, like, all right, let's say you're sleeping, let's say 68 hours a week. So you've got 100 hours that you're of awake time. At least when you're hustling for your business and doing something, at least you are trading some essence of value, you know. And we all need wind down time. We watch a film, but you're trading your time then to be entertained. And it's like, but if you do that all day, every day, that is not a life. And very quickly, you're just going through random films, random TV, and it's just shit. So it's like, you know, you are trading your time for something. Just make sure it's something that you're proud of. Make sure it's something you're passionate about, something that you enjoy and you find challenging, because I think happiness is directly linked to growth. You know, when you're growing, you're happy. It's like a car. You know, if you're doing 100 miles an hour all the time, you barely feel it. We've all done it. We're on the motorway and you look down at how fast you're going and you're like, oh, fuck. Right. You're like, oh, better slow down. Whereas when you accelerate, when you progress, for example, you feel that buzz. You go from 0 to 20 and you feel like a boy racer suddenly. Right. And it's like, that's what life is about. You feel that buzz through progression. And so that alone for me is worth the hard work, because the money and stuff like that is just an inevitable outcome. You know, the longer you do it with the right mindset, in the right order, you're going to make money, like a guaranteed, as much as possible if you do it long enough. So if you enjoy it and that progression comes along with it, that's the main aim.
Brilliant. And then with growth, obviously, you know, growth comes from getting out of your comfort zone and, you know, trying new things, developing, learning. How do you change your mindset? How do you change your mindset and look towards growth?
Well, I think there's the mindset, like either there's this line where either your physiology drives your psychology or your psychology drives your physiology. And essentially physiology being your body, psychology, your mind. And so if you're the sort of person that's naturally positive, naturally driven, which isn't many people, by the way, we're actually wired to be negative. So if you're able to do that, you can watch some mindset videos and start taking the actions. If you're not, take action without being motivated. People think you need to be motivated all the time. I'm not. There are countless mornings I'm waking up like, oh, fuck that. I just want to stay in bed and put Netflix on all the time, right? Motivation's bullshit. You don't need motivation to take action. So what you need to understand is that your physiology, your actions drives your psychology a lot. So you know, it's easy to go for a morning walk in the middle of summer when the sun's bright, the birds are chirping. That sounds really relaxing, doing a 6 a.m. walk. Try doing that this time of year. Pissing down with rain. It's fucking shit. I'm having to turn the car on for 5 minutes to heat it all up to get all this, you know, all of that stuff. It's horrible. That's not motivation. I tell you what, I'm not waking up pitch black looking outside going, whoa, what a beautiful day to do a walk. No, I'm fucking miserable all the way through. The only thing I get out of it is when I'm back in the hot shower going, do you know what? I've done it. And I feel that. So your physiology drives your psychology. There's something called a tube test, which is it's the science of winning. And there's something called neuroplasticity. So you can actually rewire your brain. And you can rewire to be a winner in general. And you might have heard like winners win, losers lose, or sections of that. The rich get richer, the poor get poorer. And it's true. The reason why for all of it is because of these limitations that are set. So how do you game the system? By winning. And the way that we win, and they do this as a tube test. So they get a tube, they put a mouse at one end and one at the other end, and it's only big enough for one to get through. So they push each other and one gets to there. And you've got a part of your prefrontal cortex and your amygdala that flares up when you win, goes bzz, bzz, and under a machine, the way you can see your brain, right? And so what happens is they then put the winning mouse against another mouse and it will win. And you put it against another one and it will win, and it will win, and it will win. Not 100%, but it's like in the 90% chance of it winning. So then they went through this series of tests, but the most interesting one is they said, okay, so winning creates a win. And that's so important to understand because you don't need these big goals. The first one is set an alarm and actually get up when you set it. Make your bed in the morning. Go for the walk. Follow through with these basic actions that they're not reliant on talent at all. You just need to do it. And psychologically, that creates this win that goes through. So it flares up the prefrontal cortex and the amygdala. So then they went through the test of, can you create the win by manipulating the brain? So what they did is got a fresh batch of mice, wired them all up, and then I don't know what they called it, electrodes, but they activated these parts of the prefrontal cortex and the amygdala. So it hadn't done anything, it hadn't won. It said, can you create a winner? So they flared it with like, I'm a winner, you know, in the mind. And then they got them competing again. And the exact same statistics, give or take, the mice that they flared won again and again and again and again. So the final part of this test is human delivery, right? How do humans do it? And they got I think it was Orlando Magic, the basketball team, got them in three sets, and they were doing a 3-point test, which for those that don't know is shooting, getting it in the ball in the hoop outside of the line. That's 3 points, right? So Group A did no practice at all. At all. Group B did an hour shooting practice, you know, shooting the hoop, 3-pointers, and Group 3 visualized it. So they put on headphones, didn't talk to each other, and you see these people sat there And if you're listening, so she can't see me doing it, but like just shooting hoops, celebrating it. But there's no ball, there's no hoop. They're just visualizing this. And then they did the 3-point test and they put them up against each other. The main thing is, well, the people that did no practice, they just absolutely shit in comparison. But the comparison of people that practiced for an hour versus people that visualized it for an hour got the exact same results.
Wow.
And so it's because they were engaging their brain, their winning mindset. And so if you wired them up, you'd see the prefrontal cortex, or part of it, and the amygdala flaring up. So you can turn yourself into a winner by getting wins. And you don't need big wins. It is, I'm going to go to bed at this time. I'm going to get up at this time. I'm going to drink X amount of water. Things that you are fully in control of. You can't go, I want $1 million in my bank next month. That's not directly in your control. That's an outcome of something. And so by driving your physiology first and creating those wins, you're then training yourself, saying, I am somebody that follows through. I am somebody that delivers. I am a winner. And then you will win more and more.
That's an interesting way. And I guess that's why like manifestation and like say visualization and affirmations are important, because you're telling your brain that you can achieve, you can do things, and you are visualizing the win and doing the small wins. Over time, the small wins become bigger wins. It's like say when you start out in property or when you start out in anything, you have to do the small things first to then grow and to achieve big things.
It's visualization, affirmation, action. So if you think about it in that order, visualization, I'm thinking it. Affirmation, I'm saying it. Action, I'm doing it. And it is, your thoughts become words, and your words become feelings and emotions, and that becomes action. So it all relates to each other. So visualization, affirmation, action.
Amazing. So just a few minutes left, but you've obviously scaled a very large successful portfolio and business. What are the challenges you face in scaling that? Because one thing I've had across various guests are staff. Staff's difficult. And how have you scaled the business to where you are now?
I always say if you didn't have staff and customers, it'd be absolutely fine, right? The issue that you inherently have with people is we're wired to blame other people. It takes a certain type of individual to take responsibility. So when something goes wrong for staff, they'll blame another staff member or blame me as the boss or blame one of the managers. Same as customers. If they're not getting the results, they'll blame outside of themselves. Education, a prime example. It's really hard to program responsibility in somebody. Not everyone, beloved, but you'll have a selection of mentees. When it's not going their way, who do they blame? Their mentor, their girlfriend, their boyfriend, whatever it is. Instead of going, hold on, what can I do to change this? Same as every other customer. So you've got staffing issues, but that becomes with culture. As you grow, it's if you can understand you're the head of the snake, if you like, and if you head in a direction, the rest of your body follows. It's the same with leadership. If somebody is negative in the office, that's your fault, right? Either you're allowing that to happen instead of going, hey, Dan, can we have a chat? What part of that behavior was acceptable to you? Do you understand how negativity spreads? And it does, by the way. Like one moany person, the whole table will be moany by the end of the day or week, right? So it's down to you. It's your responsibility, because either you change it or you get rid of it. And you have to be like that, okay? But also, you need to be the change that you want. If I'm coming in and people are going, oh, morning, boss, how you getting on? Shit weekend, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, well, why wouldn't they be like it? Whereas if I've had a shit weekend, I'm still going to come in, yeah, amazing. So excited to be here, man. How's your day going? It's you want to instill that change. So yeah, it is a challenge. Dealing with people is a challenge, but if you're the change that you want to see, that will naturally instill. But it starts at the beginning, what your hiring process is. If you talk about money too early in a hiring process, then you're going to attract somebody that's focused on money. Okay. And it's going outside of that. So outside of staff, you've got the typical growth pains in general. So as it depends how fast you grow, but naturally, whenever you think you're at a certain level and you push beyond it, you're going to have not complaints as such, but you are going to have more customers feeling your growth. which is natural. You know, if you serve 5 clients a month and suddenly you're serving 15 clients a month, you don't know how communication works at that level. You don't know how many staff you're going to need at that level. The systems don't work. I'll give an example of this. In our property company, we're doing about 35 properties a month now, around 30 to 35 completions a month, which is great.
For your own portfolio or like sourcing?
Oh, that's just sourcing. I'm buying about 5 a month personally. But that's for clients. Now, our system is probably set up for about 25 a month. And we've realized that. So now we're needing to relook at how do we communicate with customers? Because our target in the next 2 years is to get to 50 completions every single month.
Wow.
So that's going to need a different type of communication. So now I'm looking at the route of, is now the time to have an app where somebody logs into the app? They've got instant access. Hey, can I get an update? Yeah, let me check this for you. You know, just so they can actually chat with somebody from conveyancing proactively rather than phone calls, which you miss each other.
Yeah.
Then you're trying to call them back, and then it's 15 minutes instead of I've got 3 questions. Here they are, and it's really easy to do it. So it's like that's what I'm looking into now. But in order to learn that, I had to get to this stage. You know, because originally, why would you think you need to reinvent your whole system of communication when you're at 20 a month and it's working perfectly fine? So you have those breakages. Along with that, you're then dealing with customer service issues, because in those breakages, you're going to get more people like, oh, I've not had a call for 3 days. This hasn't happened. That hasn't happened. And then obviously you have to rectify that. But not only do you now need to improve the system, you now need to talk to the client, say, okay, hey, I'm really sorry about that. This is why it's going through. Here's what we're doing about that. And you're trying to keep them happy while solving the issue. So you have those growth pains. And then the final one is massively increased costs. So when you go through a surge of growth, there's going to come with a certain investment in that. So right now I'm sat in my podcast room in the office, and this office that we've moved into has space for 50 employees, because I think at 50 a month with my other businesses, the education business, lettings, all of that stuff that comes in, we're bringing law in-house, mortgage brokerage in-house, we're going to need this space. So we have to invest ahead of time. Yeah. So the cost of the office is like crazy. It's about, well, crazy for me anyway. Yeah. It's about 100 grand a year. Hitting out the office to like brand it all properly, because I want to make it a great environment, it's about 140,000 plus that. And then obviously hiring like recruitment consultants. We've probably paid out about 70 grand this year to recruitment consultants. Yeah. And it's, you know, all of those things, suddenly the profit margin has to go like that, dive, revenue goes up, profit margin takes a dive, and then you find that calibration again. And it's that's what people don't prepare for in that growth. Is in your growth, you're also your culture will shift a little. You know, it's harder to keep a great culture when you're getting a new employee every couple of weeks. So then you're going to find that certain people no longer fit in. And a lot of people don't take account of that. You always think about new staff. You don't have to take account of who's going to leave, you know, as a business owner. And the more employees you got, you know, there's 30 of us now, including me and Dan, my business partner, is the higher chance that there's going to be people leaving each year. And, you know, those are the core things that I find is staffing, culture, recruitment, costs, and system breakages.
It's a lot more in depth than a lot of the responses I've had from other owners. So it's a good insight. And, you know, like you say, to grow, you've got to take some hits in some areas. And like you said, there's many areas to take them hits in. But, you know, in order to grow, you have to do that. And we've noticed, you know, taking on staff, it does go like that. But, you know, because you get double the time essentially, don't you? So you should be able to do more. With 30 staff, you should have 30 the amounts of time that you would if you're doing things yourself. So doing all of them tasks, you're able to do more things effectively in a shorter space of time.
Yeah. Two things I'd say on that, like, I think will help people is that if you're making your first hire, just be prepared for the first 6 months, because that first 6 months is going to feel like, hold on, I used to do all of the stuff I'm doing and all of that job, and I'd have time spare. Now I've hired somebody, I'm paying out a salary, and I'm still doing everything, and I'm still doing their job, because it will not be hire somebody and now that's offloaded.
No.
You need an onboarding like the first couple of months will just be no return on them whatsoever. Onboarding, training, systems, things that you think are really obvious, so you say them quickly once, is not obvious. You've written a system that if you're going through the system with them and they need to ask loads of questions, the system's not good enough. They shouldn't have to ask a single thing. So just be prepared for that. And then the final growth thing that I'll add on, that is a transition I've gone into this year, is management. When you're big enough to start getting managers in, and you've got a certain cohort that are so used to having direct access to you as their boss, suddenly you hire somebody that nobody likes management. No, because management you have to make hard decisions. You have to give people a bollocking for not doing their job. And so what I found this year is whenever the new manager gives them a bollocking, they go, Jamie, shoot me a WhatsApp. Cool. What's your manager say? This. Cool. Why are you messaging me? And you have to be really brutal with that, because you can still be mates, you can still go out for a dinner and stuff like that. But in that workplace, if you start bringing in hierarchy, you have to respect that hierarchy and then work with that manager to instill the culture that you want into that manager. Otherwise, the manager will come in and assume the culture that they are used to, and that will screw up a lot. Say you bring somebody in as a small business, you want to bring somebody in that's fun, but also with a real corporate background, because you need to go from an entrepreneur to a business owner. You're going to rely on that. And so you just need to make sure that you're instilling who you are and the culture that you want in your family, in your business, so that that's not ruined. And that's definitely a growing pain, to be sure.
And how active are you in the business? Like, there's working in the business, working on the business, but what roles do you take up at the minute? So you used to do a lot of the training. Are you still heavily invested in doing the actual webinars and the training for your education business? Do you still give the training on that?
Yeah, so that interesting transition from working in the business versus on the business is so much slower than people think. It's so much slower than people think. And you've got to decide, like, in hindsight, if you knew, like, if I knew for a fact each business was going to be successful to the level, then maybe I would have not even launched a business and I would have written everything that I think will work. The issue is that's not how business works. You need to hustle. There's two ways to launch a business, either with no money or some money, right? And if it's no money, then you have to do the roles, and then you generate cash, and then you hire somebody. You generate cash, you hire somebody, or usually you get like venture capital funding, all of that sort of thing. We went down the self-fund route. We've never got any funding apart from, credit card at the beginning for my education, like a lot of us do. So then it's like, right, so it's hustle, hustle, hustle. So that transition's so much slower. But what I would say is it's a lot easier to transition when you're smaller. And so if I could go back, honestly, I probably would have hired my first manager maybe like 3 years ago.
Wow.
Okay. Because I still had, like, to be fair, like, let's take this, like, we've grown massively. At the start of this year, there were 12 of us. End of this year, there's 30 of us. That's a huge growth. There's no way I could have done that without management. So yeah, it's a big one. So in terms of my roles, I'm still very, very, very much involved in the day-to-day. But more and more, I'm pulling out more. So let's take education, for example. I'll do the webinars where I'm doing the sale, but I've done less and less and less of that. So I do a cohort intake, as you know. Like, I'm not like, oh, year. It's I open, I close it. I open, I close it. The last intake, I didn't do any of the sales webinars, but there was an impact on conversion. So I have to accept that. But the more and more I build up the individuals to do that, I don't need to do it. This time round, so for my program, once you've written the program and you train somebody on it, and you actually get somebody in that knows what they're talking about, the delivery of content, you don't need like a master. It's more the mentoring. So, I'm still doing a lot of that, but the aim by the end of next year is for, on my course, to be delivering maybe 3 modules on there. And then from the academy side, doing the in-person days from it, which is about 6 days of the year. And then the rest of it is having some really high quality mentors, which is hard to find, you know, and you have to pay really good money to get great people, you know, because it's not 10 quid an hour to find somebody that great at that level. You know, you're paying probably the equivalent of £500 a day to get somebody good. So it's yeah. And then in the property business, it's I'm getting involved, then getting out. So for example, there's stuff that should be there in the investor funnel, but I'm the only one that knows what I really want. But I've got people to manage it once it's there. But because they don't know exactly what I want, I'll go in, spend 3 or 4 days really mapping it out, breaking it down, handing it over, training them on it, and then I'm out of it. And then it's just making sure that when I do pull out of it, how do I quality check it? You know, what bits are in place to make sure it's happening how I want it. And then that's it really. So yeah, I still work maybe 60, 70 hours a week. Like I will do though for many, many years. I'm obsessed with it. And I'd probably say about 25 hours of that week is still working in the business. And that's something you need to realize, that you only continuously work on the business when you found the level that you're happy with.
Yeah.
Okay. Whereas when you're growing, I'm not talking like a 5% growth a year. I mean like the crazy growth that I currently want. You have to understand the faster you grow, the more you are going to be working in the business. The slower the growth, the more you can do your couple of hours a day reports and all of that.
Yeah, it's quite important. And, you know, everyone says, you know, I want to work on the business, not in the business, but I like the day-to-day, some of the day-to-day, not all of it, you know, dealing with the hassle and the shit. No one likes dealing with that, but sometimes it falls down to you to deal with that to grow, because if you've got to, you know, deal with a complaint, or you're the one who understands the business the best because it's your business. And I think
100%. Nobody's going to be more passionate about your business than you. Like, obviously. And why should they? You own it.
Exactly.
You know, why should they? But also, like, people are obsessed with this financial freedom, right? And I get it, you know, but for me, being financially free isn't about not working. It's about having that choice. Because if you're an entrepreneur and you want to hustle, you go on your beach. Let's see how long you last on that beach before you're like to do something else. So yeah, you might be working on this business, and that's fine. When you've got this business to the level that you want, and then you want to maintain, you develop great culture, you get good managers, and then what will happen is you either sell that business or you want to keep that business. Like, I don't want to sell any of my businesses, so I want to keep it. Still check in once a month. Even when I'm at that level, I'll still check in once a month, reading the reports, feeding back, all of that. But then I'll be working on another business and growing it there. And then I'll work on another business until I no longer find that interesting. But ultimately, you know, you are going to be working in a business if you've got that entrepreneurial spirit.
Yeah, I can never see myself stopping, to be honest. And like say financial freedom, you know, yeah, you want a lot of money in the bank, but it's about doing what you want when you want. And I think that's the most important thing. I have 2 kids now, you know, and just to be able to go to sports days, or, you know, take them on holiday or do the fun things, I think that's the important thing for me. You know, that's the financial freedom. I never not want to work. If I sit there on an evening, I watch an hour, 2 hours of TV, I start getting palpitations, thinking, fuck, I should be doing something, man. Do you know what I mean? I'm like, I need to be doing something, because I feel like if I'm not doing something, I'm not growing, or I'm not, you know, achieving something. But like you say, you got to take that time to yourself.
Yeah, decompression time is really important, but you don't need to be doing 3 hours a day of it.
No, yeah, it's exactly every day, 3 hours a day, every day. Listen, you touched on it then. I was going to bring it up. So your journey to 100 million, you know, how are you going to get there? What's it look like? Is it portfolio? So you want to achieve £100 million portfolio, 25 mil equity on that basis, or?
Yeah. So it's that part of the goal is £100 million portfolio.
Yeah.
You know, so it's the asset value. It won't be in equity, but it's specifically property portfolios.
Yeah.
I've been looking at it, and I'm in two minds, because like you could do developing or commercial conversion, and I'll probably make more bang for my buck, you know, like I'll get an extra 500,000. But what I've ended up doing is I'm making really good money in my businesses. And so I'm going to double down. And I think another mistake a lot of people make is they're making money over here, and then they go, oh, I'm going to try and go make money over here as an active income. And doing a development is an active income. Doing a commercial conversion is an active income. Now, I do developments anyway, but I'm developing to sell. So actually, I think what's much smarter is, I know how to make money over here. I'm really fucking good at this. Do more of it, and then use that money to go into passive. So I'm very much, you know, I talk about boring vanilla buy-to-lets. I love them. I love buy-to-lets. So all I'm going to do is that on scale. So instead, I'm still going to be buying the odd unit, you know, that I like this house and all of that, got a good discount or it's got a good return on it. But really, I'm going to be targeting blocks. So, you know, like I'm looking at one right now in West Yorkshire. It's a block of 47 units for 3.5 million. And it's like, right, cool. That looks good. The numbers look good. And overnight, I'm increasing my number of properties, units, as 47 doors. Obviously, it's one big unit, but increasing it by millions at once. And all I need to do is a series of that and portfolio buying, you know, buying a £5 million portfolio. It's much easier to get funding on it, much easier to raise capital if I need to, if I don't have my own money. And that's what the aim is, to have it as £100 million portfolio overall by the time I'm 35 with my money in it, not joint ventured or anything.
I feel mine's not as ambitious as yours. So I turned 30 in December. So, well, less than 2 weeks now. And I've set myself 30 things to achieve in my 30s. So just listening to yours, I think fucking hell, I've got to up the ante a little bit. But no, to be honest, mine, you know, hit net worth millionaire. So it doesn't matter. Like, it's not what I want to achieve by the end of my 30s. It's all like stepping stones. So I've got like net worth millionaire, have a £20 million portfolio, do 20K a month revenue consecutively for 12 months, and then £1 million revenue. But it doesn't mean that, you know, I want to get all there at 39. I might want to achieve 20K a month by, you know, 31. And then that takes me to the next one. That leads to the £1 million revenue across the businesses by 33. So that, similar to you, yeah, I'm setting some goals. And I think you need them to achieve. But, you know, you touched on units then. We've changed our strategy. I love buy-to-lets. I'll always buy buy-to-lets. I think they're a great investment. But yeah, looking at the blocks to grow in scale, it's looking at the higher cash flow, higher income. If you do want some in whole, mate, I've got a few for sale.
Let's have a chat.
Got them in last week, so yeah, I'll ping them over. That 9.75% portfolio yield it is across the flat, so not bad. But listen, you know, you've got 78,000 YouTube subscribers. There's a lot of people that's interested in your content. I am, you know, you've not asked me to say this, but I did your training. I was cohort 3. What number are you on now?
Cohort 8.
Fucking hell. So yeah, fair few. And to be fair, I think that was the best property training I've done, because it's current. It's using modern techniques, you know, social media, you know, sales funnels, building the pipeline, systemization. And I don't think many people out there do that, because, you know, they still talk about going into agents and giving them donuts, which I think is a fucking waste of time. I'd never do that, and I don't think it'd ever work. You know, so yeah, it's silly, isn't it? It's silly what people say. But yeah, if anyone's looking at sourcing, you know, I found you online years ago, seen what you've done and what you've achieved over the number of years. I've been on your training, and, you know, it helped me significantly. Like a lot of the other people I know in our cohort are doing well. I think Andreas, he was in my cohort. He's now working for you, isn't he? So
yeah, he's done incredibly well. He's doing 6 figures a year now. So yeah, I appreciate you saying that, mate. I feel like people are going to be listening thinking I've just slipped you 20 quid under the thing, but
I'd ask for more than 20.
Yeah, more than 20 is 200. No, it's no, I appreciate that, mate. And, you know, hopefully I've given some value today. And, you know, if it goes well and people like the content, more than happy to come back on and chew the fat about other stuff as well. But yeah, if anyone is listening, it's just Jamie York on YouTube. Feel free to go over there, check it out. It's all free content, obviously, and hopefully it adds some value.
100%. Well, listen, I appreciate your time today. I know you're a busy man, so thanks for giving it up. And you know, good luck for the road to 100 million. I'm sure you'll do it probably sooner than 35, knowing you. But you know, I'll be watching. I'm assuming it will be over YouTube.
Yeah, it'll be everywhere, mate. Don't worry about that. But no, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
No worries. Cheers, mate.